Chapter 55-47. Lan Yunxiao originally had the strength to fight, but after being beaten up like this, it was difficult for him to even stand up. Blood had already dyed their clothes red, but the two of them gritted their teeth and didn't make sound. Even if they were to die here today, they had to at least maintain their last shred of dignity. Yin Haowang's actions today are too much. Even if Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxiao aren't his match, he shouldn't use such a method. He's a mentor of the Crimson Moon sect, after all. Bullying two newcomers to Penglai Island is too much of a bully. I usually don't think so, but now I feel that the Crimson Moon sect can't compare to Penglai Palace. At least, the mentors of Penglai Palace wouldn't do such a thing. Even though Yin Haowang was the one with the absolute advantage, no one present thought that he was amazing. On the contrary, Lan Yunxiao was a true hero in everyone's hearts. There were things a man should do and things he shouldn't do. For his brother, he was willing to give up his life. This was a true man. Yin Haowang was originally looking at Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxiao with ridicule. He wanted to use this opportunity to teach them a lesson and let everyone know the price of offending him. However, he didn't expect the crowd to be so one-sided. Penglai Island was never a place that sympathized with the weak. Yet now, all these people were supporting Lan Yunxiao. Yin Haowang's expression changed. This wasn't the result he wanted. Stop. Seeing that Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxiao were on the verge of death, Yin Haowang shouted for them to stop. Following Yin Haowang's words, the four disciples of the Crimson Moon sect immediately stopped and turned to look at him. Yin Haowang raised his hand, and the four of them quickly returned to their positions behind him. They secretly sighed in relief. In reality, they were extremely embarrassed when they were faced with the crowd's disdainful and mocking gazes. Using the strong to bully the weak, using numbers to bully the few, and being despicable and shameless. It didn't matter which one of these titles was hung on their heads. They wouldn't be happy, let alone when so many titles were hung on their heads. The faint smell of blood permeated the air and dyed Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxiao's clothes red. Flowers of blood blossomed on the ground, and a tragic and desolate aura spread out. Compared to their miserable and sorry state, their eyes were still as sharp as an eagle's, and they revealed stubbornness and persistence. His sharp gaze seemed to be able to pierce through people's hearts. Facing those two eyes that were filled with blood qi, Yin Haowang did not know why, but his heart actually trembled, and a trace of fear unconsciously flashed through his heart. However, when he thought about how the two people in front of him were about to die, he dispelled the thought in annoyance. Damn it, he was actually intimidated by the gazes of two ants. It was simply laughable. In the next moment, Yin Haowang squatted down and looked at the two miserable faces in front of him. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of playfulness. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. I will give you a chance to live now. As soon as these words came out, all eyes turned to Yin Haowang. They didn't expect this guy to have a bit of conscience and change his mind at the last moment. However, Lan Yunxiao and the other man only looked at him coldly without saying a word. It was impossible for such a despicable and shameless person to be so kind as to let them go. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many things happening now. Chapter 55-48. Yin Haowang originally thought that after he said those words, he would definitely see Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunfeng's hopeful gazes. However, he didn't expect that the two of them didn't take his words to heart at all. Instead, it was as if they had seen through him. This feeling made him extremely unhappy. I'm speaking the truth, Yin Haowang spoke again. Everyone here can bear witness. As long as you do it, I'll give you the antidote and let you leave Scarlet Moon Island. Lan Yunxiao's eyes turned gloomy and complicated. His voice was hoarse and suppressed. What is it? Yin Haowang stood up abruptly, his fat face filled with pride. Here, my shoes are dirty. Yin Haowang pointed at his shoes, and his smile became increasingly arrogant. As long as you lick my shoes clean, I'll let you live. Isn't this simple? The conspiracy in Lan Yunxiao's eyes deepened. Even though he had already guessed that Yin Haowang wouldn't say anything good, he still underestimated Yin Haowang's shamelessness after hearing the contents of the conversation. In your dreams, Lan Yunxiao coldly said. Oomph. Yin Haowang's expression turned sinister. If you don't do as I say, you too can only die here today. Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng ignored him. They'd rather die than do such a thing. Di Beichun controlled the flying artifact and rushed at his fastest speed. Finally, he successfully arrived at Scarlet Moon Island. This is Scarlet Moon Island. Izihua guided them along the way. Although Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang knew about Scarlet Moon Island, they'd never come here before. Scarlet Moon Island was one of the 3 most famous islands in Penglai Island. It was extremely vast. Buildings stood in great numbers, and the streets were filled with people. The liveliness here wasn't inferior to Penglai Island. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest weren't in the mood to pay attention to all this. They only wanted to reach the stage as soon as possible. It was already noon, so the battle should have already begun. With Yin Haowang's strength, it would only take him a short amount of time to kill the 2 of them. It was precisely because everyone knew of this situation that they remained silent. No one said anything. If they said something bad and made Bailey Hongzhuang's mood even worse, they didn't want to see that happen. Bai Cangming and the other 2 walked at the front, leading the way. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest clearly did not know where the arena was. The group of people flew away as fast as they could. Even though they were extremely fast, many people still managed to see their faces clearly. Am I seeing things? I think I saw the Penglai Palace Master just now. I also think I'm mistaken, because I actually saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. Everyone looked at each other as thoughts flashed through their minds. If it wasn't for the fact that there were other cultivators around, they would have thought that they were seeing things. I heard that today is the day Yin Haowang will deal with Lan Yunxiao's group. Now that the Penglai Palace's people are here, could it be that Lan Yunxiao's group's identity is real? Chapter 55-49. There were already many people who had gone to the arena to watch the show. When the remaining cultivators found out that people from Penglai Palace had come, they all rushed over to watch the show. If this matter wasn't attractive to them before, it was now very attractive. Along the way, Bailey Hongzhuang's face was expressionless, but the sweat on her palms revealed her inner nervousness. If something happened to her father and master, she wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Yin Haowang's expression darkened when he heard Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunfeng's rejection. He coldly looked at the 2 of them, his eyes filled with malice. Are you sure you want to refuse? Yin Haowang coldly asked. Lan Yunxiao looked at Yin Haowang with disgust. As a mentor of the Crimson Moon sect, you actually don't have any sense of existence. Can you only use this method to pretend to be an expert? His mocking words pierced Yin Haowang's heart. In his fury, he directly slapped him. Go to hell. Lan Yunxiao subconsciously closed his eyes. Rather than being humiliated here, he'd rather die a quick death. That would be more straightforward. However, the expected pain didn't come. Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but frown. Suddenly, he heard Yu Linfeng's astonished voice. Hongzhuang. Yu Linfeng stared blankly at the figure that suddenly appeared in front of him. For a moment, he only felt that he was too weak and had become delirious. Lan Yunxiao hastily raised his head. When he saw the familiar figure in front of him, his deep eyes filled with joy. That's right. This was Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang tightly grasped Yin Haowang's hand. Her dark eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty glint as dense killing intent exploded from her body. The bloodstains on Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng's bodies were a ghastly sight, even though she had already guessed that she would encounter such a situation before coming. When this bloody scene truly appeared, her heart was deeply shaken and pierced. Her father and master, the 2 people she had carefully protected, were actually beaten black and blue by this bastard from the Crimson Moon sect. Damn it! Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was burning with killing intent. When Yin Haowang saw a stunning woman suddenly appear in front of him, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Just as he was about to get angry, he found that this woman's strength was so terrifying that he couldn't break free. Not only that, the cold, killing intent emitted from the woman's body seeped into his body, causing his heart to tremble uncontrollably in fear. Just as he was about to ask who this woman was, he suddenly heard a terrifying name, Bailey Hongzhuang, now in the entire Penlai Island. Who hasn't heard of Bailey Hongzhuang's name? Previously, he already knew that Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxi claimed to be Bailey Hongzhuang's relatives, but he didn't take it seriously and even treated it as a joke. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had actually appeared. He took a closer look. Wasn't this woman's stunning appearance exactly in line with everyone's description of Bailey Hongzhuang? You dare to hit my father? The cold voice didn't have the slightest bit of warmth. The bloodthirsty killing intent was almost tangible. Bailey Hongzhuang expressionlessly looked at Yin Haowang. Chapter 5550. Father. When Bailey Hongzhuang uttered these two words, everyone present was dumbfounded. After a short period of silence, the surroundings of the stage suddenly erupted into an even more shocking heated discussion. Heavens, Lan Yunxiao is actually Bailey Hongzhuang's father. This matter has blown up. Yin Haowang actually dared to make a move against Bailey Hongzhuang's father. Isn't he courting death? At this moment, no one doubted the outcome. Suddenly, everyone felt that the affairs of the world were impermanent. A second ago, Yin Haowang still held the absolute advantage, but now he wasn't far from death. Yin Haowang was dumbstruck as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Everything that had happened in the past gave him a strong sense of unreality. He only felt that all of this must be a dream. How could such a coincidental thing happen? Crack! A crisp sound rang out, followed by the crackling sound of bones cracking. A blood-curdling scream rang out. Yin Haowang's face instantly swelled red, so red that blood could drip out. His originally swollen face now swelled even more like a pig's head. The heart-wrenching scream attracted everyone's attention. Only then did they realize that Bailey Hongzhuang had directly crippled Yin Haowang's hand. Not only did she break it, but she also directly shattered his finger bones into powder. His limp hand no longer had any support and just drooped down like that. Everyone couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Just by looking at this situation, they could feel the heart-wrenching pain. Yin Haowang's first thought was to escape. If he continued to stay here, only death would await him. However, how could Bailey Hongzhuang give him the chance to leave? In the next instant, she lifted her right leg and stomped it on Yin Haowang's foot. Crack! Another sound that made one's teeth ache rang out. Yin Haowang screamed again, his face contorted from the pain. With his left leg crippled, he couldn't stand firm and directly fell to the ground. Was it you who beat them to this state? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed slightly as she looked down at the ugly bug on the ground. Her heart had long been filled with endless waves. This damn fellow, how dare he treat the people she cared about like this? Every single wound on her father and master's body, she wanted to return it to this guy. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was like a god of death in Yin Haowang's eyes. He was already unable to move under her terrifying pressure, let alone resist. He didn't even have the courage to resist. No. Yin Haowang hurriedly shook his head, as if he was afraid that he would be treated like this again if he was a step slower. Who is that? Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes dangerously. Her gaze swept across the arena and finally focused on the four people who were trembling on the other side. It's you? That's right, it's them. At this moment, Yin Haowang couldn't care less about their relationship as master and disciple. He only wanted to survive. Everything else had nothing to do with him. When they saw that Yin Haowang had placed all the blame on them, their already pale faces lost all color. Their legs trembled, and they trembled so much that they couldn't even speak clearly. No, it's not that. The four people hurriedly waved their hands and retreated. Where was their previous arrogant and complacent look? It's not? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. Chapter 55-51. Perhaps the people who were standing below the ring would not be able to sense how terrifying Bailey Hongzhuang's powers were. However, they were standing on the ring and could clearly feel the aura emitted by Bailey Hongzhuang. Under such coercion, they felt as if Mount Tai was pressing down on them, and they found it difficult to move. Once Bailey Hongzhuang increases her coercion, perhaps they would be crushed into minced meat. This terrifying feeling terrified them to the extreme. No, they did it. Yin Haowang cried out again. Thousands of thoughts were running through his mind as he desperately wanted to leave this place. Based on Bailey Hongzhuang's intelligence and wisdom, she could roughly guess the situation just by looking at the situation before her. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a cold smile as she withdrew her coercion. Feeling that their bodies were suddenly relaxed, the four disciples flew out of the ring without hesitation. If they did not leave now, they would never be able to leave again. Just as the crowd was wondering why Bailey Hongzhuang had chosen to let these fellows go, a clear and cold voice, which was like the sound of nature, rang out domineeringly. Since you've made your move, all of you shall stay here. The next moment, in front of everyone's shocked eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's 5 fingers stretched out, and the 4 disciples were caught by her. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly closed her hand, and the 4 figures exploded into a mist of blood. Bang! A dull sound rang out, and blood instantly stained the entire ring red. The cultivators who were closer to the ring were splashed with blood. The thick smell of blood filled the air and set off the peerless, fair face of hers, giving her an inexplicably enchanting and charming look. However, at this moment, no one dared to covet Bailey Hongzhuang's beauty. She was a terrifying and powerful woman. Even though the 4 cultivators were not particularly powerful, they were not weaklings since they had been able to make it to Penglai Island. However, this was all in the blink of an eye. Bailey Hongzhuang did not even look at the 4 cultivators. She simply waved her hand, and the 4 of them were turned into a mist of blood before they even had the chance to retaliate. Almost everyone present was shocked by Bailey Hongzhuang's attack. They have never seen such great power before. What kind of power is this? Bailey Hongzhuang is a little too powerful, isn't she? I've never seen such a powerful cultivator. Heavens, what kind of opponent has Yin Haowang provoked? At the same time, the cultivators of the Crimson Moon sect sensed that something was amiss. Initially, they had only been dealing with 2 cultivators who had just arrived. But who would have thought that these 2 cultivators were backed by such a powerful organization? Based on Bailey Hongzhuang's fury, killing Yin Haowang would not be enough to quell her anger. If the Crimson Moon sect was implicated, it would be disastrous. Bai Congming and the rest could not help but look at each other when they saw this scene. They had long known that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would become extremely powerful after ascending to the upper realm. However, this level of power still shocked them. Indeed, it was necessary to set such a rule between the upper realm and the lower realm. Otherwise, any cultivator from the upper realm would be able to turn the lower realm upside down. While Bailey Hongzhuang was teaching Yin Haowang and the others a lesson, Bewitching and the others had already helped Lan Yunxiao and the other to the side. Chapter 55-52. Just by looking at the bloodstains on their bodies, he could tell how serious their injuries were. If they had come just a bit later, they would have already lost their lives. Bewitching couldn't help but rejoice. Fortunately, they had coincidentally returned today. Otherwise, it would have been terrible if they missed this opportunity. After taking the pills, Lan Yunxiao and Yulin Feng felt the pills melt in their mouths. Their already terrible bodies were recovering at an extremely fast speed. Sensing this, the 2 of them couldn't help but be shocked. This was the power of the upper realm. The effects of pills were much stronger. Deep Beichan, Lin Feng was poisoned by Yin Haowang, Lan Yunxiao hastily said. Although his injuries were serious, they could be healed with some time. However, Lin Feng had been poisoned for a long time. If he didn't quickly take the antidote, he wouldn't be able to hold on. When he heard that Yulin Feng was poisoned, Di Beichen's gaze darkened. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang on the stage. Hongzhuang, master, you was poisoned. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was about to teach Yin Haowang a lesson, heard this, and her gloomy face became even more ruthless. You even poisoned my master? Yin Haowang was already scared out of his wits when he saw how Bailey Hongzhuang dealt with the four disciples. With such strength, he was simply no match for her. Now that he heard those chilly words again, he was almost scared out of his wits. I have the antidote here, the antidote. Yin Haowang trembled as he raised the antidote with both hands. His pale face was filled with terror. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was the king of hell in his eyes. No matter how hard he racked his brain, he couldn't think of a way to escape. Right now, the only thing he could think of was to stall for time. If the sect master came, perhaps there would still be room to turn things around. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. With a flash of energy, the antidote landed in front of Bewitching. Bewitching immediately gave the antidote to Yulin Feng. Although Hongzhuang definitely wouldn't have a problem detoxifying the poison, Yulin Feng had clearly been poisoned for a long time and couldn't be delayed any longer. After taking the antidote, Yulin Feng felt his body gradually improving. The feeling of being suppressed to the point where he couldn't even speak was gradually disappearing. He immediately let out a sigh of relief. Miss Bailey, I really didn't know they were your relatives. If I knew it, I wouldn't dare to provoke them. Yin Haowang knelt in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, his other hand pulling on Bailey Hongzhuang's trousers. Where was the arrogance from before? At this moment, he was about to die from regret. If he knew these two people had such a terrifying background, he definitely wouldn't have provoked them. Definitely not. They already told you. Didn't you still provoke them? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were indifferent. Even though her heart was filled with boundless killing intent, she didn't immediately kill him. This fellow had humiliated the people she cared about. If she let him die so easily, wouldn't it be letting him off too easily? Yin Haowang wanted to cry. He did hear Lan Yinxiao and Bailey Hongzhuang say it, but not only him, there was no one present who believed it, all right. Chapter 55-53. Swoosh. With a flash of energy, a hole was pierced through Yin Haowang's body. Blood quickly flowed out. Yin Haowang screamed. Although this wound wasn't life-threatening, the pain was intense. With one arm and one leg crippled and the wounds on his body, no matter how stupid Yin Haowang was, he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was planning to fix him. This meant that he couldn't even die a quick death. What are you screaming for? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned and waved her hand. Another burst of energy shot out and another bloody hole appeared. Her father and master had been beaten black and blue, but they still hadn't said a word. This guy was only slightly injured, but he was wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. It was really unpleasant to hear. Yin Haowang groaned and forcibly swallowed his voice. He didn't dare to make another sound, or else Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely drill a third hole in his body. However, in the next moment, another burst of energy flashed by and another wound appeared. There's no sound at all. It seems like this wound doesn't hurt, Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently. Yin Haowang really didn't know what to say. It wasn't right for him to make a sound, but it wasn't right for him to not make a sound either. What exactly did she want him to do? Seeing this scene, everyone understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was just toying with Yin Haowang. No matter what Yin Haowang did, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't stop her attacks. However, nobody thought that there was anything wrong with Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, because Yin Haowang's actions towards Lan Yinxiao and Lan Yinxiao were even more excessive. Yin Haowang is dead for sure today. Bailey Hongzhuang will definitely torture him to death. He deserves it. He just had to humiliate Lan Yinxiao and Lan Xinyuan without rhyme or reason. Now that he's caused so much trouble, only death is waiting for him. This is called the evils we bring upon ourselves. I almost couldn't bear it when he was so excessive before. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang is acting, I feel a bit better. Everyone shook their heads and sighed. This was probably the result of doing too much evil. Bewitching looked at Bailey Hongzhuang on the stage. He didn't make a move from beginning to end because he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to take revenge herself. When they knew Yin Haowang's name, he was destined to die tomorrow. Lan Yunxiao and Lan Xinyuan didn't feel anything wrong. This wretched guy should have died long ago. Yunxiao. You. And Yu Yun's words. Lan Yunxiao revealed a knowing smile. I just didn't expect it to be so soon. From the looks of it, the two of us are quite lucky. It seems like the heavens don't want to take our lives. Just a little bit more, and they would have lost their lives here. But just a little bit more, and they managed to keep their lives. After the cultivators reported, the sect master of the Crimson Moon sect also learned of this matter. He was shocked and felt his scalp go numb. That wretched Yin Haowang. Of all the people he could provoke, he just had to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang. The sect master of the Crimson Moon sect stomped his feet, his face filled with anger and impatience. After Bailey Hongzhuang's incident, the Crimson Moon sect suffered a heavy blow and almost collapsed. Chapter 55-54. Sect Master, should we make a trip to the arena? I heard that the Palace Master of Penglai Palace and Long Yanwei are both here. Instructor Liu had an anxious look on his face. This situation had exceeded all of their expectations. Actually, he already knew that Yin Haowang was planning to use this opportunity to teach Lan Yunxiao and Long Yanwei a lesson. At that time, he had only thought that Yin Haowang was being senseless. As a Crimson Moon sect instructor, he had done something so harmful to himself. However, he could not be bothered with him. After all, he was not on the same side as Yin Haowang. However, Yin Haowang had provoked Bailey Hongzhuang, so the situation was different. Back then, the disciples of the sect had provoked Bailey Hongzhuang. After that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had disappeared without a trace. Then, a group of people from the Di family had suddenly appeared and pressured them without a single word. It was then that the Crimson Moon sect had felt the threat of destruction for the first time. Fortunately, the other party was a reasonable person. After killing all the cultivators who had participated in the incident, they had left them a way out. Otherwise, the Crimson Moon sect would have been removed from Penglai Island from that day onwards. From that day onwards, everyone in the Crimson Moon sect had thought of two people that they must never offend, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. However, they had now provoked them again. Furthermore, Yin Haowang was going against Bailey Hongzhuang's father. One could imagine how serious the situation was just by thinking about it. Instructor Liu, the sect master's expression was filled with hesitation. He really wished that he could turn into a beast and slap that idiot Yin Haowang to death. He had turned a blind eye to Yin Haowang's outrageous acts on a daily basis. However, he had provoked such a fiend for the sect. At this moment, he really did not know how to deal with this situation. Forget it. Let's go and take a look at the situation first. The sect master pondered for a moment before speaking. After all, Bai Tsangming was already here. It would be inappropriate if he did not go. The arena was drenched in blood. Now, the entire arena was almost dyed red with blood, and the thick smell of blood spread. Yin Haowang was extremely weak at the moment. He frowned as he endured the intense pain, but he did not even have the strength to groan. If he could, he really wanted to die a quick death. At this moment, he was even a little envious of the four people who had crushed Bailey Hongzhuang into a bloody mist. At least they didn't have to endure such inhumane torture. Unfortunately, there was nothing he could do now. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was terrifyingly strong. In front of her, he was like a helpless person. He didn't even have the strength to fight back. From the beginning to the end, this was a one-sided torture. I beg you, give me a quick death, Yin Haowang said weakly. Bailey Hongzhuang's cold eyes didn't change. When you treated my father, did you have the slightest bit of mercy? How about this? I'll give you a chance to. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a bloodthirsty and enchanting smile. It was dazzling under the brilliant sunlight. Yin Haowang looked at the woman who was radiating boundless brilliance from above. He suddenly understood how Lan Yunxiao and the other two felt earlier. However, He did not expect that retribution would come so quickly. In the blink of an eye, it had already fallen on him. Take this pill. As long as you don't die, I'll spare your life. Her lips curled up slightly. Before Yin Hao Wang could react, the pill had already been forcefully swallowed. Cough, cough, cough. Chapter 55-55. After taking the pill, Yin Hao Wang's face was also ashen. Although he didn't know what pill it was, he knew it couldn't be anything good just by thinking about it. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flashed and appeared beside Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng. Different from her previous coldness, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression immediately became gentle. Her voice was sweet and pleasant, filled with deep concern. Father, Master, how are you feeling? Lan Yunxiao patted Bailey Hongzhuang's hand with an amiable smile. Don't worry, we're fine. Bailey Hongzhuang grabbed Lan Yunxiao's hand and took his pulse. After taking his pulse, her gaze towards Yin Hao Wang became even more ruthless. When she first saw Lan Yunxiao, she knew that his injuries were extremely serious. But now, it seemed that his injuries were even more serious than she had imagined. Fortunately, he had already taken the pill and felt a little better. However, he still needed to be carefully nursed back to full health. As for Yu Linfeng, his situation was even worse. After being poisoned, he was heavily injured and the poison had already entered his internal organs. Even though he had taken the antidote, the poison had been too long and had damaged his foundation. She knew all too well what it meant for a genius like her master to have his foundation damaged. And all of this was because of that despicable person, Yin Hao Wang. Hongzhuang, what kind of pill did you feed him? Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but ask. She didn't know why Hongzhuang didn't directly kill Yin Hao Wang. Could it be that the effect of the pill was even more painful? It's enough to make him regret it for the rest of his life. Her ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with cruelty. She had no interest in humiliating others, but she would never show mercy to her enemies. Moreover, this wretched fellow dared to treat her family like this. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. This was her style. Hearing this, Shangguan Yingying understood immediately. She sighed inwardly. Yin Hao Wang was so blind that he had to provoke Hongzhuang. He deserved it. Then, everyone saw that Yin Hao Wang's face was filled with pain. His veins were bulging, and he kept rolling on the ground. His heart-wrenching screams were heard, as if every second he lived was torture. Seeing this scene, everyone present could not help but shudder. It was too tragic. Even though he didn't know what kind of pain it was, he could imagine it when he thought about how Yin Hao Wang wasn't in such pain when his hands and feet were crippled. Bailey Hongzhuang, what are you doing? A middle-aged man suddenly appeared near the ring. At this moment, he was looking angrily at Bailey Hongzhuang. The sudden voice attracted everyone's attention. Everyone turned to look. They didn't know who was so blind as to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang at this time. Wasn't this courting death? However, when everyone saw who it was, they understood what was going on. Chapter 55-56. When Elder Yin saw that Yin Hao Wang had been tortured until he no longer resembled a human, he was seething with anger. His eyes were spitting fire, and he was about to explode at any moment. He has no children and has always raised this nephew of his as his own son. All these years, Yin Hao Wang's performance has never disappointed him. To be able to reach such a level of cultivation at such a young age and even become a teacher in the Crimson Moon sect, Elder Yin did not mind even if Yin Hao Wang had gone overboard. After all, in the world of the powerful, this was the most normal thing to do. However, he never thought that Yin Hao Wang would be humiliated to such an extent today. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard this voice, she turned around and looked at the fellow who had suddenly appeared in front of her. She raised her brows and a wicked, cold smile appeared in her eyes. She does not know who this fellow was, but based on the fact that he had stepped forward to stand up for Yin Hao Wang, she could guess that he was either a relative or a member of the Crimson Moon sect. Long Yanwei recognized the newcomer immediately. He also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would not know much about this, so he immediately introduced him. This is Yin Haowang's uncle and an elder of the Crimson Moon sect. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others immediately understood. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Based on Yin Haowang's conduct, I'm afraid that Elder Yin is not a good person either. Shangwan Yingying rolled her eyes. Ever since this fellow had appeared, she had not had a good impression of him. It was obvious that he was another fellow who would cause her to lose her appetite. Yingying, that's where you're wrong. Xiren's expression straightened. Just as the crowd was wondering why Xiren's attitude was different from before, they suddenly heard this fellow speak. What do you mean by afraid? He's definitely not a good person. Elder Yin, who was already enraged, was now fuming with rage. He glared fixedly at Xiren, hating that he could not swallow this fellow who had disrespected him alive. Bailey Hongzhuang stared calmly at Elder Yin, who seemed to have been set on fire. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. Can't you see what I'm doing? Are you blind? Elder Yin was furious when he saw how disrespectful Bailey Hongzhuang was to him, and he turned to look at Bai Songming. Palace Master Bai, why don't you take care of your Penglai Palace's people? Bai Songming smiled when he heard that. Elder Yin, you're mistaken. Even I have to be respectful when I see them. You want to control them? That's impossible. Elder Yan's face froze when he heard this, and a look of astonishment appeared in his eyes. However, all the cultivators present could not help but sigh after hearing all this. Sure enough, the status of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others was now extraordinary. Even the leader of Penglai Palace had to be respectful to her. Although no one knew where Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had gone during this period of time, they could tell that her position was not simple from the strength she had just displayed. Even if it was Palace Lord Bai, his strength would not be comparable to Bailey Hongzhuang. Elder Yin was also in disbelief compared to everyone else's matter-of-fact attitude. Palace Master Bai, are you kidding me? She's an inner palace disciple of your Penglai Palace. How can you not take care of her? Could it be that you think that I've been in closed-door cultivation for a while, and you're casually teasing me? Bai Songming glanced at Elder Yin lazily, but he was too lazy to say anything more to this fellow. Chapter 55-57. Hearing Elder Yan's words, everyone remembered that it had been a long time since they last saw him. Perhaps he did not even know who Bailey Hongzhuang was. However, when they thought of this, everyone felt that there would be a good show to watch later. Elder Yin, we're not fooling you. Long Yanwei spoke slowly, and there was a hint of sympathy in his eyes. Based on Bailey Hongzhuang's character, Elder Yin would most likely not be able to escape today. After Yin Haowang took the pill, he felt a sharp pain. The pain went deep into his bones, as if there were countless insects biting his body. There was nowhere to hide, and he was on the verge of collapse. Originally, under the torture of Bailey Hongzhuang, he was already weak to the extreme, and at this moment, he was suffering so much that he could hardly make a sound. However, when he saw Elder Yin, it was as if he had seen a life-saving straw. Uncle, save me. Yin Haowang crawled forward bit by bit. His eyes were filled with hope as he stared at Elder Yin. It was as if he was his only hope. When Elder Yin noticed Yin Haowang's appearance, he suddenly became anxious. Without saying anything else, he appeared next to Yin Haowang in a flash. Bailey Hongzhuang was not anxious when she saw this. She did not care about this so-called Elder Yin at all. As Elder Yin approached, he also noticed Yin Haowang's injuries. He was instantly enraged, and the anger in his heart overwhelmed him. The veins on the corners of his eyes bulged as if they were going to burst at any time. Stupid girl, how dare you treat him like this? Elder Yan's eyes were bloodshot due to his anger. With Yin Haowang in such a state, even if he were to stay alive today, it would be difficult for him to recover in the future. Haowang, I'll take you away now. Elder Yin was about to help Yin Haowang up. Although he wanted to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson, Yin Haowang's injuries were too serious. If they were not treated as soon as possible, he might lose his life. As for settling the score, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. However, just as he was about to leave with Yin Haowang, he suddenly heard the latter say, "Poison, poisoned." Elder Yin was stunned for a moment, but he quickly understood what she meant. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. You actually poison Hao Wang? You're so young, but I didn't expect you to be so despicable. You really have the heart of a snake. Listening to Elder Yan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly chuckled. Elder Yan, I think you should figure out who poisoned me first. I'm just giving them a taste of their own medicine. That's all. If you want to talk about despicable and shameless, it's your nephew. Of course, a crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. Old man, you're not a good person either. Her ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with disgust. Even though she didn't know much about Elder Yin, from his arrogant appearance, she could understand that Yin Haowang's conduct had something to do with him. Her cold and distant words were very calm, but it was this kind of indifferent statement of facts that made people feel even more embarrassed. You stupid girl, I'm going to teach you a good lesson today. After being humiliated by this little girl, Elder Yin could no longer suppress the rage in his heart. He immediately charged towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 55-58. The crowd could not help but sigh when they saw that Elder Yin actually dared to take the initiative to attack Bailey Hongzhuang. He was really digging his own grave. Elder Yin was puzzled when he realized that Bai Songming and the rest had no intention of stopping him after he made his move. However, he was mostly immersed in the joy of killing Bailey Hongzhuang. No matter how much of a genius this young junior was, what could he achieve? Yin Haowang was also extremely anxious when he saw Elder Yan's actions. However, in his current situation, he couldn't even speak properly, let alone shout to remind Elder Yan. Just as Elder Yan's attack was about to reach him, Bewitching suddenly moved. His figure was like the wind. A fierce look flashed across his deep, dark eyes, and a tyrannical force flashed past. Even though it was only for a short moment, the crowd could still feel the power of Bewitching's strength. This kind of terrifying strength was simply breathtaking. Elder Yan, who had made up his mind to take Bailey Hongzhuang's life with one move, suddenly felt an uncontrollable force coming towards him. Immediately after, he felt as if he had been attacked by a ferocious beast. His body flew backwards, and fresh blood spurted out wildly. His internal organs seemed to have been smashed into pieces at that moment. Bang! A dull but loud sound rang out. The crowd saw Elder Yan's entire body being embedded into the wall. Fresh blood spurted out and dyed the front of his clothes red. He was completely battered and exhausted. He no longer had the smug look he had when he was shouting at Bailey Hongzhuang. Cough, cough. Elder Yin was silent for a moment before he returned to his senses. His eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at Bewitching in the distance. He could not care less about the pain in his body, as his heart was filled with shock. That kind of ability was definitely the most powerful person he had ever seen. How could such a young cultivator's ability be so terrifying? At this moment, he suddenly understood that Bai Songming's words were not a lie. Based on Bewitching's ability alone, Bai Songming could not possibly be his match. He actually finished it off with a single move. Everyone sighed. Everyone had guessed that Elder Yin was no match for Bewitching, but the gap was too big. In their eyes, Elder Yin was also an invincible and powerful existence. However, he had been completely crippled with just one move. The gap between them was truly terrifying. When Yin Haowang saw that Elder Yin had also ended up like this, it was as if his last hope was gone. In addition to the excruciating pain that made him wish he was dead, he died just like that. Lan Yinxiao and Yu Linfeng, on the other hand, were incomparably calm. They were only shocked by the increase in Bailey Hongzhuang's strength. Thinking back to when these two little fellows left, their strength was not as strong as theirs. In just a few short years, they had actually grown to this level. It was really too shocking. Yin Xiao, it seems that we, as elders, are really ashamed. Yu Linfeng shook his head and sighed. Lan Yinxiao nodded slightly. Indeed, these little fellows' harvest this time is really shocking. When the sect master and the instructor of the Crimson Moon sect arrived, they saw this scene. Instantly, It was as if they had swallowed a fly, and their originally unsightly expressions became even more unsightly. They only thought that Yin Haowang had caused trouble and did not expect that Elder Yin would also participate. Chapter 55-59. Look, even the sect master of the Crimson Moon sect is here. This incident has really blown up. Even the sect master has rushed over. I wonder how this will end. Ever since the sect master of the Crimson Moon sect had arrived, his expression had been rather awkward. Even though he was extremely unwilling, he still stepped forward and said, "Palace Master Bai, long time no see." Bai Tsaming smiled faintly. His politeness carried a sense of alienation. "Sect Master Lu, I'm only here today to lead the way. However, your sect's teachers have really run amok. How dare they treat the family members of my disciples in this manner? It seems that you'll have to manage this properly." Everyone knew about the grudge between the Crimson Moon sect and Penglai Palace over the years. The two of them were even more at odds with each other on the surface. This situation could not be any more normal. Sect Master Lu's gaze then landed on Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Even though this was the first time he had seen the two of them, he already knew who they were from the moment they had appeared. "Miss Bailey, I'm really sorry about this. It was my oversight, and I did not manage my subordinates well. I hope that you can be magnanimous. I will never allow this to happen again." Sect Master Lu's expression was serious, and his face was filled with regret. It was an extremely sincere apology. Before he had arrived, he had already made up his mind to apologize sincerely and seriously. If Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to forgive them, then everything would be fine. However, if Bailey Hongzhuang was unwilling to forgive them, then everything would become troublesome. The previous incident had already dealt a huge blow to the Crimson Moon sect. If this were to happen again, the entire Crimson Moon sect would probably be wiped out. However, when the crowd saw that Sect Master Lu had immediately apologized to Bailey Hongzhuang upon his arrival, they all widened their eyes in shock. That was right. Bailey Hongzhuang's power had exceeded everyone's expectations. It was just that Sect Master Lu was usually a high and mighty existence in everyone's eyes. Who would have thought that he would actually be so respectful and apologetic towards Bailey Hongzhuang without any temper? Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng exchanged glances. They seemed to have underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's influence on Penglai Island. Bailey Hongzhuang remained calm in the face of sect head Lu's apology. She did not say whether she accepted or rejected it. If she had come one step later today, her father and master would have already lost their lives. Even if their lives were not in danger, their injuries were not ordinary. She would not completely let this matter go, just because of a few words of apology from the other party. She would never let go of anyone who dared to hurt her family. Chapter 55-60. Long Yanwei and the others stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. When Xiren and Shangwan Yingying looked at each other as well. They really could not understand the reason behind Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden question. Only Di Beichen had a clear look on his face, as if he had already guessed the reason behind her question. "I see." Bailey Hongzhuang gently nodded in understanding. Sect Master Lu stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion and could not help but ask, "May I know why you ask, Lady Bailey?" Bailey Hongzhuang's face remained cold in the face of Sect Master Lu's seemingly friendly attitude. The space between her brows was filled with disdain and disgust. "Since you were also the sect leader of the Crimson Moon sect, you should have learned your lesson after that incident. Now that something like this has happened, it proves that you did not take the lesson from before to heart." Bailey Hongzhuang glared coldly at Sect Master Lu. She knows very well that this fellow must know that if she does not appease her anger, the entire Crimson Moon sect would be implicated. That was why he had rushed over to apologize. After all, the previous incident had caused such a huge commotion. He was very clear about the power behind Beichen. She did not think that Sect Master Lu's apology was sincere. He was only pretending to be sincere because of the situation. She did not care for an apology like this. Besides, Even if it was true, she did not care. Because an apology was not enough to make up for anything. Could an apology really make up for the pain that her father and master had suffered? How could the humiliation they had suffered during this period of time be so easily covered up with just an apology? It couldn't. None of it could. Therefore, to her, this apology was just a meaningless sentence. Once Bailey Hongzhuang had spoken, the expressions on the faces of the crowd changed. It seems that even though Sect Master Lu has personally stepped in, Bailey Hongzhuang's anger has not dissipated. Actually, this is normal. If it was your family that was treated like this, they wouldn't let it go so easily just because of an apology. Everyone shrugged their shoulders. Everyone was very clear about the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang did this. If his strength was not as good as Sect Master Lu's, then he would have no choice but to swallow his anger. But since he had such strength, why should he be afraid? Sect Master Lu obviously didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to say something like that. Instantly, his expression turned awkward. He only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was young and inexperienced, so it was impossible for her to see the problem so clearly. But he didn't expect this guy to hit the nail on the head and make him unable to refute. After a while, he smiled embarrassedly. I did not do a good enough job in this matter, but Miss Bailey, you can rest assured that I will absolutely not let such a thing happen again in the future. Sect Head Lu's gaze landed on the injured duo. I'm truly sorry, but I'll be responsible for any medicinal ingredients and fees you need for your treatment. Can't we be responsible for this? Shangguan Yingying snorted coldly. Miss, you misunderstood. I only wanted to express my apologies and attitude, Sect Head Lu hurriedly explained. Sect Master Lu explained hurriedly. At this point, he could no longer be bothered about losing face. As long as this matter could be resolved peacefully, losing face was nothing. Didn't they see that Elder Yin was already embedded into the wall? Chapter 55-61. Sect leader Lu knew very well that once Bailey Hongzhuang had made up her mind to bury the entire Crimson Moon sect, they would not be able to stop her. Compared to the consequences, losing a bit of face was nothing. As long as there was still a chance to salvage the situation and the Crimson Moon sect would not be affected, he was willing to do anything to make up for it. Then, according to sect leader Lu's opinion, how should we deal with Elder Yin who was about to kill Hongzhuang? Bewitching looked at sect leader Lu lazily and casually. He did not take the latter's apology to heart. As Bewitching's cloud landed, sect leader Lu was slightly stunned. He instinctively looked at Elder Yin who was still embedded in the wall. At this moment, his hair had been dyed white by the dust on the wall, and his aura was weak as he looked over. Elder Yin had been an elder in the Crimson Moon sect for many years, and his strength was extremely outstanding. After the previous incident, the entire Crimson Moon sect had lost many powerful cultivators. If they lost Elder Yin, their strength would be greatly reduced once again. At the thought of this, sect leader Lu felt conflicted. However, when he noticed Bewitching's cold gaze, he quickly said, Young Master D, from the moment he acted disrespectfully towards you, he was no longer a member of the Crimson Moon sect. You can decide how to deal with him. When Elder Yin saw that the sect leader had given up on him just like that, his heart trembled. Based on the current situation, if the sect leader was not willing to save him, only death would await him. If he had known that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were so powerful, he would not have stepped in. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. At the thought of this, Elder Yin felt depressed. He could only blame Hao Wang for not telling him that Bewitching and the rest were so powerful. If that was the case, he would not have made a single mistake. Compared to Elder Yin's opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had a different opinion. If he really felt very apologetic, they only had to casually mention it, and sect leader Lu would have personally dealt with Elder Yin. However, the fact that he said such words now proved that he had other ideas in mind. Bai Cangming exchanged glances with Yi Hua when he saw this, and then he said via voice transmission, This fellow is still as dishonest as before. However, playing such tricks in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others is equivalent to courting death. By now, he had some understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Although they were young, they were all intelligent and quick-witted. If they treated them with sincerity, they would also treat them with sincerity. However, if they wanted to scheme against them, they would definitely scheme against them even more miserably. Sect head Lu clearly didn't want to be the bad guy and hoped that he could take the opportunity to spare Elder Yan's life. When the time came, Elder Yan would still be Elder Yan. If that's the case, then I'll end him. Bewitching's voice was cold. He raised his right hand, and a streak of black energy flashed past. Immediately after, everyone realized that Elder Yan's life force had been cut off. Sect head Lu's face froze when he saw this scene. He didn't expect Bewitching to be so decisive. Taking Elder Yan's life in front of so many people was not giving him any face at all. Chapter 5562. When Bai Tsongming and the rest saw how impolite Bewitching was, they couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts. It was obvious that Bewitching had already guessed Sect Head Lu's thoughts, so he didn't give him any chance. Even though Sect Head Lu concealed it extremely well, they still noticed the shock and awkwardness that flashed across his face. Sect Head Lu had a flattering smile on his face. He knew that the key to this matter was Lan Yunxiao. If Lan Yunxiao agreed, then this matter would be over. On the other hand, if Lan Yunxiao refused to let it go, then Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest would definitely poke a hole in the Crimson Moon sect. Lan Yunxiao was also someone who was used to seeing through wind and rain. He had long seen through feigned civility. He didn't intend to say much about this matter and left it all to Hongzhuang and Bewitching to handle. Now that these two children no longer needed their protection, they could already hold up the sky on their own. Facing Lan Yunxiao's cold face, Sect Head Lu couldn't help but feel a trace of anger. As the sect head of the Crimson Moon sect, who didn't treat him with respect. It was fine if Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying's strength wasn't ordinary, but this Lan Yunxiao had just arrived at Penglai Island and actually relied on these two's strength to treat everyone with disdain. He was truly abominable. There's no need to say anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang coldly spoke. Her ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with boundless coldness. Since you're not a good subordinate, I think you might as well quit being the sect head. Following this cold and pleasant voice, the entire area around the stage fell into a deathly silence. Wasn't this too domineering? Telling someone to quit being the sect head as soon as she opened her mouth? Shangguan Ying's mouth was also agape. Her round eyes revealed her astonishment and shock. Hongzhuang's words could really scare someone to death. Even though she also felt that the Crimson Moon sect had provoked them time and time again, and that there was no need for them to exist, they were still the dignified sect leader. The moment Hongzhuang opened her mouth, the sect leader would not be able to get out of this embarrassing situation. PFFF. Cough, cough. Izihua almost choked on his own saliva. In the past, he had discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang had this kind of amazing talent. However, after not seeing her for a while, Bailey Hongzhuang's ability in this area had improved again. Miss Bailey, did I hear wrongly? Sect Master Lu stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes filled with disbelief. What did you just say? You didn't hear wrongly. I told you not to be the sect master anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang reiterated. With a sect head like you, the disciples of the Crimson Moon sect will not have a good future. The reason why Elder Yan and Yan Haowang were so tyrannical was undoubtedly because of sect leader Lu's indulgence. Even if these two guys were already dead, there would be more people like them appearing in the future. With the new and old grudges added together, she now loathed the Crimson Moon sect to the extreme. However, she also knew that not all disciples were like that. Therefore, the best solution was to replace the sect leader. Bailey Hongzhuang, the sect head is giving you face. Don't go overboard. Instructor Lu, who had come along with sect head Lu, could not help but cry out angrily. He had long known that Bailey Hongzhuang was difficult to deal with. However, he never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so overboard. Who do you think you are? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at him. Can't you see that I'm talking to your sect head? Chapter 5563. Instructor Liu was infuriated. He had never seen such a tyrannical person like Bailey Hongzhuang. She wanted to remove the sect leader from his position the moment she opened her mouth. What a joke. Even though there were many powerful people on Penglai Island, he had never heard of such a situation. From his point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang had said that to embarrass the sect leader. The sect leader had already humbled himself and apologized. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was still unwilling to forgive him. She really had no sense of propriety. I never thought that you would be so loyal to protect your master. A sharp light flashed across Bailey Hongzhuang's black eyes. However, I won't fall for that. Bailey Hongzhuang casually struck out with her palm. The crowd only felt a strong wind blow past them. Instructor Liu's body flew backward and landed beside Elder Yan's corpse. He spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that he was breathing less than he was breathing. Seeing this, the crowd could not help but sigh. They felt that Instructor Liu was really reckless. The situation with Elder Yin and Yin Hao Wang was a lesson to be learned from. If it were anyone else, they would not have chosen to speak at such a time. Bailey Hongzhuang was obviously targeting sect leader Liu. However, no one could deny that her words were unreasonable. In reality, compared to the other two forces, the Crimson Moon sect was indeed too tyrannical. Sect leader Liu had an undeniable responsibility for this. It was because of his indifference and connivance that such situations had increased in the sect. Initially, many of the Crimson Moon sect's disciples were wondering if they should quickly escape. After all, once Bailey Hongzhuang unleashed her invincible power and wanted to bury the entire Crimson Moon sect, they would not even have time to run. However, after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, their hearts calmed down. Could it be that as long as sect leader Liu stepped down from his position as sect leader, the Crimson Moon sect would not be affected too much? Sect leader Liu, who was initially unconcerned, narrowed his eyes when he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had taken Instructor Liu's life in one move. A trace of shock surfaced in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang dared to do this in front of him. She really had no scruples. Miss Bailey, let's talk this out, sect leader Liu said in a panic. I'm ordering you now, not negotiating with you. You have two choices. One is to give up the position of sect master, and the other is to die. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. The Crimson Moon sect had to pay the price for everything that they had done. Sect master Liu stood there in a daze. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were like a bucket of cold water poured over his head. Suddenly, he seemed to have lost his mind and did not know what to do. He had never thought that he would be faced with such a choice. Bai Caoming could not help but secretly rejoice. Fortunately, he had befriended Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. The speed of their growth was simply too shocking. In the past, they had only seen them as ants. However, in just a short period of time, they already had the ability to abolish the position of sect leader. Miss Bailey, Master D, aren't your conditions a little too unreasonable? Sect leader Liu pondered. It was not easy for him to lead the Crimson Moon sect to its current position. How could he be willing to hand over the position of sect leader just like that? Once he handed it over, he would really become a joke in the future. It would be difficult for him to have a foothold on Penglai Island. Chapter 5564. Bailey Hongzhuang could not be bothered to say anything more to this guy. He still has not figured out the real situation. It seems that sect leader Liu has already made his decision. A cold look flashed across Di Beichun's eyes, and a murderous aura quietly spread out. Noticing Di Beichun's change, sect leader Liu's expression changed slightly. His heart quivered, and a cold look appeared in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichun, don't go overboard. Even if you're very powerful, you can't force someone to make such a choice. In the next moment, without waiting for Di Beichun to attack, sect leader Liu's figure flashed, and he attacked directly. He was worried about the power behind Di Beichun and not Di Beichun. Since there were only Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang, he had no need to be afraid. Even if the entire Crimson Moon sect was implicated, what did it have to do with him? Without the position of sect leader, everything had nothing to do with him. After so many years of hard work, he could not accept it. He would rather die than accept it. No one would have thought that sect leader Lu would dare to attack Bewitching directly. However, thinking about it carefully, under the pressure of Bailey Hongzhuang, it was normal for sect leader Lu to resist. If it were anyone else, they would not be able to accept it either. After noticing sect leader Lu's actions, a cold look flashed across Bewitching's eyes. More than that, there was contempt and disdain. "You're digging your own grave." Bewitching snorted coldly. His figure flashed, and he dodged sect leader Lu's attack. Seeing this, Sovereign Lu's heart was also shocked. He did not expect Bewitching's speed to be so fast. However, he did not give up and immediately attacked again. As long as he could subdue Bewitching, nothing else would be a problem. However, Bewitching soon showed him what true strength was. Although Sect Master Lu thought that he was extremely powerful, in front of Bewitching, he was simply unable to withstand a single blow. He didn't even manage to land a single hit on Bewitching, and he himself had become a target. One attack after another landed on his body, and the powerful and ferocious force destroyed his internal organs. Bang, bang, bang. Bewitching kicked out with both his legs, all of which landed on Sect Head Lu's chest. Sect Master Lu's body kept swaying in midair. Finally, he was embedded into the ground by Bewitching's kick. That ferocious force actually directly smashed a deep hole in the ground. Smoke and dust scattered in all directions, blurring everyone's vision. Then, a pale golden figure jumped out of the deep pit. It was Bewitching without a doubt. However, no one saw Sect Leader Lu again. This old fellow really doesn't know how to choose. He clearly had a way out, but he chose to die. Bai Tsaming shook his head and sighed. From the moment Sect Leader Lu attacked Bewitching, he knew that this fellow would not be able to keep his life today. In fact, he had also guessed that with Sect Leader Lu's despicable level, if he really knew that Bewitching was so powerful, he would definitely not have chosen a fight force with force. It would have been better if he had escaped. In all likelihood, he thought that Elder Yin had fallen into such a situation because they had helped him. Therefore, he had misjudged the situation and led to such an outcome. Chapter 55-65. As Sect Leader Lu's life force was completely cut off, the surroundings were in an uproar. Regardless of whether it was the death of Elder Yin or Yin Haowang, everyone was extremely calm. This was because even though the two of them had a high status in the Crimson Moon sect, they were not considered to be very impressive figures in the entire Penglai Island. However, Sect Leader Lu was a completely different matter. He was the sect leader of the Crimson Moon sect. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang had casually asked Sect Leader Lu to step down from his position, most of the people thought that it was just a show of strength. Who would have thought that Bewitching would be so decisive and kill Sect Leader Lu in one move? This was simply too shocking. Heavens, even Sect Leader Lu is no match for Bewitching. I'm afraid that the Crimson Moon sect is completely finished. What do we do now? I wonder if Bailey Hongzhuang will vent her anger on the entire Crimson Moon sect because of this matter. Why don't we just leave the sect and not go back? That's right. It's better not to go back at a time like this in case we get into trouble. In an instant, many disciples of the Crimson Moon sect panicked. Most of the people on the Crimson Moon Island were disciples of the Crimson Moon sect. Moreover, this matter was related to their teacher. Hence, many disciples had come to observe. Who would have thought that they would see such a scene? Their sect leader was killed right in front of their eyes. Moreover, his methods were swift and decisive. There was no room for negotiation at all. Incidents where an entire sect was destroyed because of disagreements had happened frequently in history. Absolute powerhouses did things according to their moods and would start a massacre at the slightest disagreement. They were not willing to be buried together with Yin Haowang. At this moment, everyone's hearts were scattered. Even though they had worked hard for a long time to join one of the three great forces, they did not care anymore. Even though the cultivators were discussing softly, Bailey Hongzhuang could still hear them clearly. Just as the cultivators were hesitating on how to get rid of this matter, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice suddenly rang out. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Today's grudge has been settled. I'm not someone who would kill the innocent. Everyone, there's no need to worry. Her exquisite face was filled with confidence. Just by standing there quietly, she emitted an endless amount of brilliance. Everyone's hearts shivered as they stared at the proud and peerless figure. This woman was truly exceptional. Even more cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were very clear. She would not pursue this matter any further. The people who originally thought that something terrible had happened suddenly felt that it wasn't as bad as they thought. Although the sect master had fallen, they didn't have a good impression of him. Moreover, because of Yin Haoguang's tyrannical behavior, many cultivators were bullied by him. Now that these few fellows had disappeared, the Crimson Moon sect might be in a different situation. After the matter was settled, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't linger. Lan Yinxiao and Yu Linfeng both needed to be treated and recuperated, so they quickly left the arena. Bai Cangming's group of 3 naturally followed closely behind, and they casually found a restaurant on the street to stay in. Young Master Lan, young Master Yu, we are truly sorry this time. Bai Cangming cupped his hands with an apologetic expression. We didn't investigate this matter clearly. If we had done so earlier, you wouldn't have been injured. Chapter 55-66. Lan Yinxiao was also shocked to see Bai Cangming apologize to him. Although this was his first time meeting Bai Cangming, he already knew that he was the palace master of Penglai Palace from his conversations with others. He hadn't been in Penglai Island for long, but Penglai Palace was extremely famous. He didn't expect its palace master to apologize to him so apologetically. He immediately said, "Palace Master Bai, you're too polite. This matter was caused by us. It has nothing to do with you, so there's no need to apologize." No. Bai Cangming shook his head. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun have made great contributions to our Penglai Palace. We should take good care of you. I'm truly sorry. That's right. We didn't handle this matter well. I hope you too can forgive us. Long Yanwei also spoke up. He didn't say this because of his status in Penglai Palace, but because he was a friend of Bailey Hongzhuang's group. He should have taken good care of his friend's family. Unfortunately, he didn't do that. He was truly ashamed. Seeing this, Lan Yinxiao and Yu Linfeng exchanged glances. They immediately understood that if Bailey Hongzhuang didn't relent, Bai Cangming and the rest wouldn't be at ease. Yu Linfeng immediately signaled Bailey Hongzhuang with his eyes. After noticing her master's worry, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, "Palace Master, Lord Long, you don't need to feel guilty. I know the whole story. If it were me, I would have made the same decision as you. After all, if you talk about this matter too much, everyone will suspect the truth." Lan Yinxiao and Long Yanwei roughly guessed the reason after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. When they first came to Penglai Island, they inquired about the news of Bailey Hongzhuang. When they inquired, the other party was very willing to talk to them, but when they revealed their identity, the other party directly rolled their eyes and didn't want to talk to them at all. At that time, they felt it was very strange. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun were clearly doing well on Penglai Island. They shouldn't have such a reaction to them. However, when they learned that many people had announced that they were Bailey Hongzhuang's family before they came, they completely understood. They felt very helpless about this. Bai Cangming and the rest quietly sighed in relief. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang's family was fine. If something had really happened, their relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang would have been completely cut off. "Hongzhuang, what's your plan now? Do you want to return to Penglai Island?" Long Yanwei asked with concern. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "We'll stay here. We originally planned to make a trip home, so we might stay on Scarlet Moon Island for a while. When my father and the rest recover from their injuries, we'll return home. Thank you for leading the way today. If it wasn't for you, we might not have made it in time." "Since that's the case, we won't disturb your rest," said Long Yanwei. If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave first. Bai Zongming stood up. Yu Linfeng clearly still needed to recuperate. If they stayed here, it would be a waste of time. Di Beichun, send the palace master and the rest off, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. All right, Di Beichun replied. I'll send you out. Chapter 55-67. Hongzhuang, I've finally met you. Lan Yinxiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in pleasant surprise, his handsome face filled with joy and rejoicing. It's been more than 3 years since you left last time. Although we received your letter last time, we haven't received any news since then. That's why we came here to look for you. But we didn't expect to fall into such a situation. If you hadn't arrived in time, our lives would have been in danger. Her melodious voice was filled with sighs, but it didn't affect Lan Yunxiao's good mood. His daughter and son-in-law had grown up to be so outstanding. He was truly proud of them. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt guilty. With her father and master's status in the outside world, there was no need for them to come here. But because they were worried about them, they rushed over and almost lost their lives. Father, I went to the upper realm because of some accident and didn't have time to inform you. But after I went there, I was told I couldn't come back. It took so long before I had the chance to come back. I understand. You must have been tied down by something. Lan Yinxiao smiled and rubbed Bailey Hongzhuang's head. You've always been very filial. If there wasn't a reason, it's impossible for there to be no news of you. But the most fortunate thing is that Beichun's cursed body has been resolved. Now, you can live well. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. Yes, we were too willful when we left without saying goodbye. We're really sorry. Di Beichun took the initiative to apologize after returning. Although they didn't want their elders to take risks for them, they also understood that leaving without saying goodbye would make everyone feel uncomfortable. Silly child, don't tell me we still don't understand why you did this. It's because you're too sensible that we want to do more. Lan Yinxiao didn't blame them at all. He knew that these children were very opinionated. Once they made up their minds, no one could change them no matter what others said. He also understood that young people like to roam the world, so it was only natural. By the way, Hongzhuang, have you been to the Di family? Yu Linfeng asked with concern. Following Yu Linfeng's words, Lan Yinxiao straightened his expression and looked at Di Beichun. Beichun, we never thought that you would have such an extraordinary background. However, even if you go to the upper realm, I hope that you can protect Hongzhuang well. Although our power is nothing compared to the Di family, if you dare to bully Hongzhuang, we will fight with our lives. Lan Yunxiao's magnetic voice was heavy and serious. His sharp gaze seemed to be able to see through all of Di Beichun's thoughts. He was very satisfied with his son-in-law, but if Di Beichun changed his mind after going to the upper realm, he wouldn't let his daughter be bullied. Di Beichun also became serious. Father, don't worry. With me here, I definitely won't let anyone bully Hongzhuang. Lan Yinxiao stared fixedly at Di Beichun. After seeing the sincerity in his eyes, he nodded. All right, I believe you. Chapter 55-68. On the side, Xiren and Shangwan Yingying hadn't spoken until now. Only at this moment did Xiren speak with a smile. Uncle, don't worry. Beichun's family values Hongzhuang even more than Beichun. The entire family treats her as a treasure, so no one will bully her. That's right. Shangwan Yingying followed up. Hongzhuang is so outstanding. Even though there are countless talented cultivators in the upper realm, Hongzhuang still surpasses them all. You don't know, but among the younger generation in the upper realm, Hongzhuang and Beichun are top-notch. Hearing Xiren and Shangwan Yingying's words, Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng revealed smiles. From the way the two of them spoke, they knew that everything they said was the truth. It seemed that their previous worries were unnecessary. Yinxiao, I told you, with Hongzhuang's ability, there won't be a problem no matter where she goes. Yu Linfeng chuckled, his face relaxed. Even though his injuries were quite serious, his expression became much better due to his joy. Lan Yunxiao nodded with a smile. Indeed, as a father, I've worried too much. Father, I know you're worried about me. Bailey Hongzhuang was moved. This was family. They were always worried about her. That's right. Our mother and master's wife. Other than missing you, everything else is fine. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled and said, Master, you've been seriously injured this time. I'll help you treat your injuries first. When your condition improves, we'll leave. How about it? Even though Yu Linfeng had already taken a pill, his condition had only improved slightly. There were more problems that needed to be treated. Lan Yunxiao replied. Hongzhuang, quickly take a look at your master. His injuries are very serious, and he's been poisoned for a long time. We can't let anything happen to him. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Father, don't worry. I won't let anything happen to Master. The news of the Scarlet Moon sect Master's death had spread throughout the entire Penglai Island in a short period of time. The cultivators who had witnessed this matter with their own eyes had even vividly described the entire matter from beginning to end. The fall of a sect leader was explosive news for the entire Penglai Island. However, when the crowd found out that the attackers were Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang, they accepted it. What shocked them the most was that Lan Yunxiao's identity was real. For a moment, many people cried out in regret. If they'd known earlier, they would have built a good relationship with Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxi. Then, they would have received many benefits. Otherwise, they would have risen to the heavens. Unfortunately, they hadn't grasped such a good opportunity. It was easy to imagine how depressed they were. With Bailey Hongzhuang's treatment, Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng's conditions improved quickly. Although Yu Linfeng had been poisoned for a long time and would leave behind some hidden dangers, with Bailey Hongzhuang's help and the help of heavenly treasures, it wasn't difficult to cure him. After staying on Scarlet Moon Island for several days, the group finally set off on their return journey. So this is a flying artifact. Yu Linfeng looked at the flying car in front of him with admiration. Chapter 55-69. Seeing the two elders' curious expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but smile. Father, Master, you'll know once it's activated. Lan Yunxiao suspiciously glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. They had never seen such a new treasure before. However, he also understood that it was most likely extremely effective. Otherwise, these little fellows wouldn't have been able to reach Scarlet Moon Island so quickly. As Bewitching controlled the flying car to leave the outside world, Lan Yunxiao and the other man felt the frightening speed and deep shock appeared in their eyes. I didn't think we'd be able to travel faster than I expected. It seems we spent close to 2 months to get to Penglai Island. Now, it will probably take less than a month for us to return. Yu Linfeng could not help but sigh. Master Yu will arrive in about 7 days. When Xiren smiled, Yu Linfeng's eyes narrowed. In truth, he also felt that this speed might be a bit faster than what he said. However, to arrive in less than half a month was truly astonishing. They were very clear on how far they had traveled when they first arrived. In fact, they were already traveling at their fastest speed. Previously, we spent quite a bit of time on this sea and had to face the attacks of demonic beasts. Now that this flying car is flying in the sky, it's naturally extremely fast. Lan Yunxiao revealed a smile. Thinking that he would soon be able to return and see everyone he was familiar with, his mood became extremely good. That's true. Yu Linfeng nodded. This flying car is truly a great treasure for traveling. With it, we can save quite a bit of time. Although there are many transportation arrays between cities, there were even more remote places that needed to be traveled. Thus, the journey would take a lot of time. With such a powerful tool, it would undoubtedly be much more convenient. Master Yu, if you like it, I'll give this flying car to you. Bewitching smiled. Yu Linfeng waved his hand. I can't accept this. So what? Bewitching's expression was calm, as if it was only natural. Lan Yunxiao was very clear on how well Yu Linfeng had treated Bailey Hongzhuang. Not only did he give the rainbow pearl to Hongzhuang, he didn't even hide the matter of the stairway to heaven from her. If it weren't for Yu Linfeng's help, many things wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Lan Yunxiao had always remembered this favor in his heart. Although the flying car was precious, it couldn't compare to this friendship. Seeing Di Baichen's generous and sincere appearance, Yu Linfeng's smile became increasingly warm and amiable. As a senior, I can't accept the younger generation's things. And this thing in your hands will be in your hands. It's more useful. As long as you can properly develop your development, I will be happy. The simple words fell into the ears of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but they couldn't help but feel touched. Only the elders who truly cared about them would say such words. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately said, "Father, we didn't come here just to visit family." Lan Yunxiao raised his brows, and his expression became more serious. "What other important matters do you have?" Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen exchanged glances. Di Baichen said, "This time, we want to bring all of you to the upper realm." Chapter 5570. You plan to bring us to the upper realm? A trace of doubt appeared in Lan Yunxiao's eyes. Isn't it said that only cultivators who have reached the Starlight Realm can go there? With our current cultivation, there's still a gap. Don't worry, we've already looked into this problem. Di Baichen's lips curled up. We'll bring you along. Everything else isn't a problem, so there's no need to worry. Hearing this, Lan Yunxiao came to a realization. It seemed that Di Baichen's status in the upper realm wasn't simple. He could actually break this rule. But even so, they still had many misgivings. Even if we can go to the upper realm now, the experts there are as many as the clouds. With our current cultivation, I'm afraid that only death awaits us. Yu Linfeng frowned. He did look forward to the upper realm, but he was even more aware of the gap between them. If their cultivation wasn't enough, they could only rely on the Di family's help. They were originally worried that Hongzhuang would be discriminated against in the Di family because of her poor background. If they brought along a bunch of burdens like them, wouldn't it affect Hongzhuang's status even more? Master, don't worry. Although our current strength can't catch up to the cultivators in the upper realm, the cultivation resources there are abundant. Your cultivation speed will be faster, and I believe that it won't be long before you can catch up to everyone else. Bailey Hongzhuang was full of confidence in this point. Whether it was her father or master, their cultivation talent was extremely outstanding. It wasn't that the cultivators in the lower realm weren't as talented as those in the upper realm. It was because of the different environment and cultivation resources, resulting in the gap in cultivation. But as long as they went to the upper realm and made up for the gap in cultivation resources, even if they were still several years behind others, she believed that with her father's talent, they would be able to catch up quickly. It had to be known that whether it was her father or master, they were all first-rate geniuses in everyone's eyes. Even she might not be able to compare to them. I still feel that this isn't appropriate, Lan Yunxiao said in a deep voice. Lan Yunxiao said solemnly, "Let's wait until we have the strength to go to the upper realm." Yu Linfeng looked at Lan Yunxiao and immediately guessed Lan Yunxiao's thoughts. He was probably worried about the same thing as him. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang heard Lan Yunxiao's refusal, she couldn't help but frown with doubt and confusion. "Father, why is that? Penglai Island is very dangerous, and you're not familiar with it, so it is not convenient for you to stay here. Once I go to the upper realm, it'll be very troublesome for me to come back. I'm always worried about you guys. What I want the most right now is to get closer to you guys." Bailey Hongzhuang seriously gazed at Lan Yunxiao. This was what she was currently thinking. After going to the upper realm, although Baichen's family was there, she couldn't help but feel sad and worried when she thought of her own family. It would be best if everyone could stay in the upper realm together. Moreover, it would be more beneficial for everyone's development. For cultivators, increasing their cultivation was something that no one was willing to give up. She knew very well that even though her father and master status was very high now, they had never slacked off in terms of cultivation. Chapter 5571. Lan Yunxiao couldn't bear to see the hope in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. In truth, what Bailey Hongzhuang said was exactly what he felt. Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang had been separated from them at such a young age. After so many years, they had finally reunited, but now they were separated again. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had left, Mu Lingbing had been nagging them every day, hoping that they would come back soon. He was well aware of his wife's thoughts. Because they had been separated for so many years, he had always felt indebted to Hongzhuang. Thus, the two of them only hoped that they would have the chance to spend more time with Hongzhuang and stay by her side. Even though they knew that Hongzhuang had to go out and train, they only hoped that she would be able to see them when she returned. That would be the happiest thing for them. If it were any other place in the lower realms, they wouldn't have to worry too much. However, Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to go to the upper realms. It was too inconvenient for her to travel back and forth. Even though Hongzhuang's heart was tied to them, it wasn't easy for her to come back often. However, as a father, he had to consider Hongzhuang more. Although reuniting was what they wanted, relying on Hongzhuang like this wasn't too appropriate. However, they could work hard to reach the Starlight Realm as soon as possible and then head to the upper realms. Although they would still be low-level existences in the upper realms, at least they would have a legitimate reason to go there. Hongzhuang, there's no need for you to say anything more. I've already made up my mind. Lan Yinshao hardened his heart and spoke resolutely. We've stayed in the lower realms for so many years. Our roots have long been planted here. How could it be so easy to leave? Yulin Feng spoke up. I understand. This is indeed a problem. However, go to the upper realms doesn't mean that we can't come back. We can leave the sect and family matters to trusted people to manage and return here from time to time. If there are outstanding cultivators, we can even bring them to the upper realm. This way, we can slowly stabilize in the upper realm. Isn't that great? For this point, Bailey Hongzhuang had already thought about it. She understood that it was not easy to make up her mind to give up many things in the lower realms. However, go to the upper realms was indeed a better opportunity for her to develop. Now that they could come to the lower realm so easily, there might be other cultivators from the upper realm coming here in the future. If that really happened, then her family would undoubtedly be the first to be affected. She did not wish for such a thing to happen. Rather than that, it was better to experience the cruelty of the world earlier and adapt to it. At that time, he naturally wouldn't have to worry about these things. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's serious persuasion, Yulin Feng also understood that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had probably already made up their minds and considered all kinds of problems before coming here. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not consider their considerations. Even if she felt helpless, she could only choose to reject them. Hongzhuang, this matter isn't as simple as you think. In my opinion, you should stay in the upper realm for now. Let's talk about our matters in the future. Yulin Feng sighed. Chapter 55-72. The interior of the carriage suddenly quieted down. Xiren and Shangwan Yingying tactfully remained silent. In truth, they didn't understand why Lan Yunxiao would refuse. This was indeed a very good opportunity. They also wanted to bring the people closest to them to the upper realm when they returned, but after witnessing this scene, their confidence was shaken. Indeed, it wasn't an easy decision to give up so many things. Master, I don't understand why they would refuse. Xiao Hei's eyes were filled with doubt. Actually, the Lan family has so many elders. Even if the family head isn't present, it's the same with the elders overseeing the clan. In truth, many family heads didn't stay in the clan. Once their strength reached a certain level, the family heads would go out to experience the world and increase their cultivation. Unless something major happened, they wouldn't stay here forever. Logically speaking, with the Lan family's current situation, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with this. As for the Tiangang sect, it was the same situation. Previously, Deep Beichun and Situ Yin had been away for a long time, but nothing had happened. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Perhaps I've thought too simply of this matter. Father and the others have other considerations that I didn't think of. Although she didn't know what her father was worried about, she believed that he wouldn't make such a decision without sufficient reason. Di Beichun didn't say a word during the entire process, but he kept an eye on Lan Yinxiao and Shangwan Yingying's reactions. He clearly noticed the hesitation and helplessness in Lan Yinxiao's eyes. After carefully pondering it for a moment, a guess suddenly appeared in his mind. No matter how he thought about it, there was no other reason that made more sense than this. Knowing Bailey Hongzhuang's gloominess, Di Beichen quietly held her hand. Bailey Hongzhuang turned and heard Di Beichen's transmission. "Wife, don't worry. Leave this matter to me. But father and the others are very resolute. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to convince them." There was a hint of sadness in Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes, but she wasn't too conflicted. After all, she couldn't consider everything from her own point of view. As long as her parents were happy, she was willing to do anything. Although it was more troublesome to come from the upper realm to the lower realm, as long as one had the heart, it was not a problem. Di Beichen smiled slightly. "Don't worry. If I say I can solve it, it will definitely be solved. Well, have I ever disappointed you?" Seeing how confident Di Beichen was, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be affected by his mood. She immediately raised the corner of her lips into a faint smile. "Then I'll wait for your good news." "No problem." After a moment of silence, Lan Yinxiao took the initiative to break the deadlock. "Hongzhuang, you said earlier that Lin Feng had been poisoned for a long time without the antidote, so his foundation was damaged. Has this problem been completely resolved?" Following Lan Yunxiao's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. When Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned this earlier, he was startled. As a cultivator, one's foundation was undoubtedly extremely important. Many people's cultivation stagnated due to their foundation being damaged. This was what he was most worried about. Chapter 55-73. Because Master has been poisoned for a long time, his foundation has indeed been damaged. I have already tried my best to solve this problem, but it hasn't been completely cured. Yu Linfeng's pupil shrank. This was what he was most worried about. However, Master, you don't have to be too worried. Because the poison he used is a slow-acting poison, it will take some time to completely cure it. It can't be completely cured in a short period of time, but with heavenly treasures and proper recuperation to stabilize your foundation, it can still be solved. Her warm and gentle voice had a reassuring power, causing Yu Linfeng, who was originally extremely nervous, to quietly relax a little. He didn't know whether Bailey Hongzhuang said these words to reassure him, but he had always believed in Hongzhuang's ability. Since she said these words, it proved that there should be a way to solve it. Bailey Hongzhuang also rejoiced in this point. Because the poison Yin Haoguang used wasn't very strong, it didn't have a big impact. If it was a powerful poison master, then it would be much more troublesome. A genius like Master couldn't leave behind an unmentionable illness because of this matter. That would be too much of a pity. Lan family. Inside the room, two women sat opposite each other. Their stunningly beautiful faces were currently filled with worry. One of the women, wearing a fiery red dress, couldn't help but stand up. Her delicate and adorable face was tightly knitted together, and her voice was filled with worry and impatience. "Sister Mu, do you think they're doing well on Penglai Island?" Nangong Wu paced back and forth. She was originally an impatient person and simply couldn't calm down. "Now I really feel that I should have gone with them. Even if they encounter danger, it's nothing. It's better than being frightened here." Looking at Nangong Wu's anxious appearance, although Mu Lingbing's expression was calm, she actually had the same thoughts in her heart. Back then, Hongzhuang and Beichen left first, followed by Yun Xiao and Linfeng. They were so far away, so they simply couldn't obtain the corresponding news. If it was outside, no matter where the two of them went, they wouldn't be worried. However, Penglai Island was a place where geniuses gathered. Even with their strength, it was nothing special there. Once they encountered an expert, the result would be hard to say. "Wooer, don't be too anxious. It's useless to be anxious." Mu Lingbing sighed. From the day they set out, we knew that they wouldn't be able to return in a short time. Penglai Island is far away, and it takes 2 months to rush to and fro for months. Furthermore, they still have to work hard there to improve their cultivation. When Nangong Wu heard this, she slumped onto the table dejectedly, and a trace of sadness appeared on her pretty face. But I really can't help but worry. I heard that many experts have fallen there. As a cultivator, she had long been used to seeing life and death. She was even more aware that almost every moment there would be people dying. However, she could not accept such a thing happening to her. Ever since she got together with Yu Linfeng, he was the most important person in her life. If something happened to Yu Linfeng, it would be a heavy blow to her life that she couldn't bear. Mu Lingbing's heart also tightened. In fact, she didn't have many pursuits. After experiencing that incident, what she cared about the most was reuniting with her family. Chapter 55-74. I hope they can all come back safely. Mu Lingbing couldn't help praying. Ever since Hong Zhuang left, she had been praying that the children would be safe. However, from what Dujus said, Hong Zhuang and Beichen should be living in the D family now. With the D family strength, they shouldn't have any problems. Why don't we go look for them? Nangong Wu couldn't help but suggest. When Yu Linfeng said he wanted to go first, she had objected. However, in the end, she couldn't win against Yu Linfeng and stayed. As Yu Linfeng left longer and longer, she became more and more worried. She couldn't help but want to go to Penglai Island to look for him. Looking at Nangong Wu's anxious expression, Mu Lingbing grabbed her hand and said, Wu-er, did you forget what they told us before they left? Especially Linfeng. He especially told me to keep an eye on you and not let you go to Penglai Island. Think about it. The two of them are stronger than us. If they can't handle it, how can we handle it? If they can handle it, then we don't need to trouble them. So no matter how worried we are, we have to wait. Mu Lingbing's expression was resolute. Although her heart had already flown to Penglai Island, her reason told her that she couldn't be impulsive. If they wanted to go, they would have gone together. She could understand what Yun Xiao and Mu Lingbing were thinking. So no matter how helpless they were, they couldn't be willful. Hearing Mu Lingbing's words, Nangong Wu sighed. It seems like there's really no other way. Don't think about it. I believe they'll come back safely. Mu Lingbing smiled faintly. Have some snacks. No, I'm not in the mood. Nangong Wu shook her head. I'd better go back and cultivate. I hope my cultivation can improve quickly so that I can go with them. In the past, she didn't pay much attention to cultivation. However, this was what she regretted the most. If he was strong enough, there would be no need for him to wait here. Seeing this, Mu Lingbing nodded slightly. Both she and Mu Lingbing had been working especially hard during this period of time. At least when they were cultivating, they didn't spend all their time worrying and longing for each other. After a few days of flying, Beichen's group was getting closer and closer to their destination. Sensing the gradually familiar aura, Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. Unknowingly, he had already left this place for so long. It really felt like a lifetime had passed. Fortunately, everyone was back. Let's go to my house first. Bailey Hong Zhuang looked in the direction, which was the closest to the Lan family. Beichen and the others naturally had no objections. They subconsciously looked at Xiren and Shang Waningying. We don't have a problem either. When Xiren smiled faintly. Anyway, there's a teleportation array between the Lan family and Tiangang sect. It's very convenient for us to come and go. As for the Heavenly Dipper sect to the Cloud Sword sect, they had traveled back and forth so many times and were even more familiar with it. That's good. We'll be arriving at the family soon. Beichen smiled. Although the upper realm was his home, it had to be said that this was the place where he had lived for the longest time. Even if he felt the air of his hometown, there was a unique sense of familiarity. Chapter 55-75. The flying carriage stopped in front of the Lan family's illusory array, and the six of them got off. Beichen put away the flying carriage. Lan Yunxiao took a few steps forward and opened the illusory array with great familiarity. The Lan family's appearance appeared before everyone's eyes. Come, let's go in quickly. Lan Yunxiao's voice was filled with lightness and joy. His distinguished and elegant appearance, coupled with his brilliant smile, truly made him a first-rate handsome man. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other before following closely behind Lan Yunxiao. "Look, is that the patriarch?" Suddenly, a sharp-eyed Lan family disciple noticed the approaching figures and couldn't help but cry out in pleasant surprise. Along with this disciple's voice, the other disciples all turned their gazes, and when they clearly saw who it was, joy appeared on everyone's faces. It's not just the patriarch. There's also the young miss and young master. Heavens, this is truly great news. Quickly go inform the madam. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others slowly approached. Seeing the familiar faces before them, everyone completely relaxed. A kind of joy spread from the bottom of their hearts. This kind of feeling was something that couldn't be given by anything else. We're finally back. This feeling is truly great. Shangwan Yingying couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Even if this was only the Lan family and not the Cloud Sword sect that she was familiar with, she already had this kind of feeling. When she returned to the Cloud Sword sect, presumably this kind of feeling would be even more obvious. That's right, this is the feeling of home. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose slightly, and the smile that came from the bottom of her heart was extremely brilliant. Nangong Wu was about to return and cultivate properly when she saw a young disciple energetically running over. As he ran, he shouted, "Madam, the patriarch is back." Hearing this voice, Nangong Wu was slightly stunned, and then a trace of astonishment appeared in her eyes. She only wondered if she was hallucinating. After hearing this, Mu Lingbing's reaction wasn't much better than Nangong Wu's. She quickly walked out of the room and saw the figure running over. She hastily asked, "What did you say?" "Madam, the family head is back," the young cultivator said happily. Receiving another confirmation, Mu Lingbing couldn't contain her excitement. "You're back. He's finally back." However, Nangong Wu tightly tugged on his clothes and asked, "Only the Lan family head came back?" "No." The man shook his head. "Miss, young master, and palace lord, you have all returned." Hearing this, Nangong Wu and Mu Lingbing exchanged glances. Their faces were filled with joy and surprise. Nangong Wu couldn't help but jump up and scream, "They're back. They're all back." "Yeah, let's go and take a look." Mu Lingbing couldn't care less about her image. She grabbed Nangong Wu and ran out. She had to see for herself that this wasn't an illusion. Patriarch, young Mississippi son-in-law, Palace Lord Yu. Along the way, the Lan family disciples all bowed, and everyone's faces were filled with smiles. Young Miss and son-in-law haven't returned since they left. I didn't expect that they would return with the patriarch today. How delightful. Of course, young Miss has always been my idol. I'm so happy to see her again. Chapter 5576. Why haven't I seen Mother and Master's wife yet? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked forward. Many elders had rushed over after hearing the news. Someone had already gone to inform them, but she didn't understand why they hadn't seen them yet. Whether it was Mu Lingbing or Nangong Wu, Bailey Hongzhuang missed them dearly. They were the most important women in her life. It wasn't just Bailey Hongzhuang. Lan Yunxiao and Yulin Feng were also looking in the direction of Mu Lingbing's residence. Noticing this, Shangwan Yingying and the rest exchanged looks. They had long heard that both House Master Lan and Palace Master Yu doted on their wives. Now it seemed that the rumors were true. Just as everyone was pondering, two beautiful figures quietly appeared in everyone's line of sight. When Mu Lingbing came out, she immediately noticed the familiar figures in front of her. Her eyes couldn't help but moisten. After waiting for so long, the people she cared about the most had finally returned. Hongzhuang. Mu Lingbing glanced at Lan Yunxiao before rushing to Bailey Hongzhuang. "Mother, I'm back." Bailey Hongzhuang was full of smiles as tears flickered in her eyes. Even though they had only reunited for a short time, she was well aware of her mother's love for her. Mother and daughter embraced each other. Feeling the warmth and familiar scent in her embrace, Mu Lingbing's heart was filled with satisfaction and joy. Hongzhuang, you're finally back. After a while, Mu Lingbing released Bailey Hongzhuang and carefully examined her. Has it been hard on you these past few years? I see that you've lost weight. No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head with a smile. Don't talk about me. You're the one who's really lost weight. She could clearly feel that her mother had lost weight. It must have been because she was worried about them. Who told you not to come back earlier to see me? I've been thinking about you every day, so I lost weight. Mu Lingbing's tears turned into a smile. Your daughter is unfilial, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a low voice with an apologetic look in her eyes. A mother would be worried about a son traveling thousands of miles. In fact, she had always known that her parents and relatives must be worried about her, but there were too many things that she couldn't free herself from in a short period of time. This guilt had always existed in her heart. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's serious expression, Mu Lingbing held her hand and shook her head. Silly girl, I was just saying. I know you're filial, and there must be a reason why you didn't come back. At the same time, Nangongwu looked at Yulin Feng with tears in her eyes. When she was about 10 meters away, Nangongwu stopped. Looking at the figure in front of her, who was much thinner than before, her heart was extremely complicated. The nervousness, worry, and anxiety of the past few days all rushed to her heart in an instant. All these years, no matter where she went, she was always with Yulin Feng. They had never been separated for such a long time. Perhaps these days weren't long for others, but for her, it was like 3 autumns in a day. It was too hard to bear. Yulin Feng looked at the familiar figure, and his handsome face broke into a warm smile. In the next moment, he opened his arms and looked tenderly at Nangongwu. Nangongwu smiled when she saw this, but as she smiled, she couldn't stop her tears from falling. She quickly walked forward and ran into Yulin Feng's arms. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.